Now, 8 years ago, on September 21st, 4 gunmen stormed the Westgate shopping mall in Westlands, Nairobi. What started as a typical Saturday for shoppers ended up being the deadliest terrorist attack at the time, with 68 people losing their lives and hundreds injured and scarred for life. While the tears may have dried, the events of that fateful day are still raw in the minds and hearts of many. Leila Mohammed spoke to scholars and experts on security matters and dives deeper into whether Kenya has raised its stakes in the fight against violent extremism.
The events of September 21st left scars in the hearts of many Kenyans and foreigners who were grounded for over 48 hours as militants dressed in mainly black wreaked havoc and destroyed the lives of many gathered at a shopping complex on that fateful Saturday afternoon. With each passing year, the darkness of that day becomes a significant memory that still lingers on.
Westgate attack was a wake-up call to Kenya. We may not have realized the extent of the threat that we were facing. Now, should we forget? Certainly not. We can only forget at our own peril.
In the last 2 decades, Kenya has felt the cruel reality that terror can create, which has forced security agencies to get back to the drawing board on how to get to the root of the matter.
And you don't just look at the last terror attack, but you look at the things that our society has done in order to prevent the kind of extremism that informs that kind of terrorism.
Scholars and technocrats in the field believe that the Westgate Mall attack had exposed certain gaps within Kenya's ability to respond effectively to terror attacks.
And going by the latest response, especially with regards to the Dusit attack, you realize a lot of those lessons had been learned, and there was better coordination, much more reduced fatalities, and a lot of it has to be attributed to the fact that the system is more robust than it was way back in 2013.
To prevent terrorism is both long-term and also immediate term or short-term, meaning that you have to be aware that there could be those active terrorists amongst us. There are those that we call moribund terror cells, especially in places where there are ungoverned spaces.
Securing the country has forced agencies to get smarter and keep up with the enemy's changing trends. Still, the country continues to witness incidents along its borderline occasionally.
Just because we haven't witnessed a major attack in the country, there is no threat of terror, because the environment is still very fragile.
While the skies may remain clearer over Kenya at the moment, experts believe that we should not be complacent with the status quo and always keep our guard up.
One thing that has become apparent is this increased radicalization of Kenyans, into extremist groups. Now, the situation is not helped by the continuing instability in Somalia, because this creates room for possibility of drawing in even new recruits, not just from Kenya, but from the entire East African region.
The best way to deal with them is through preventive, soft preventive ways of countering extremism itself. But of course, there are times when the terrorists come, our security agencies have to swing into action, and sometimes, force is used, and so on.
While on the home front, the best bet at defeating terror is engaging communities. With the threat still alive across the border, experts note that some proposed actions are not viable at the moment.
If we see what happened in Afghanistan recently, then we know what withdrawal of foreign forces or peacemakers means in a situation or in a country that has not been properly stabilized, where the infrastructure to maintain security are absent, where the institutional capacity to be able to rebuild are lacking. And so, while it may sound like perhaps it's about time for AMISOM forces generally to withdraw because they cannot live there or stay in Somalia ad infinitum, Somalia, where it is today, it is not ready.
The threat of terror has since been increasing across the continent over the past 2 decades. As the country continues to deal with the changing face of terror, many hope that someday the reality of the threat will be a distant memory. Leila Mohammed, NTV.